So let's talk a little bit more about how cortisol imbalance is affecting women in midlife. We talked a little bit about men. You did talk about menopause and perimenopause briefly there, but why is this demographic so often left out of the conversation?
It's a really good point. And to give you an idea, there's 49 million women entering perimenopause this year. It's a very large demographic, and it has been dramatically underserved over the years. And I think it just came from a lack of truly understanding what's happening in the body. And let's be honest, I didn't start off to solve this problem. This is something that we came to through understanding cortisol and then having women reach out to us and go, my hot flashes are gone. I'm down 3 pant sizes. I like myself again. My family likes me again. I'm not having the mood swings that I used to. But we were blown away. I mean, we knew cortisol reduction would support endocrinology and help optimize sleep and so forth. But the actual effects on the human body was completely unexpected. Think about the pressures that women go through today that they haven't ever gone before. They're penetrating glass ceilings, they're having top powerful jobs, they're bringing in income to the family, they're still being the caretakers. There's just so many pressures on women and men. I mean, I don't have an argument one way or the other, but there's just so much going on today, more so than there ever have been. And the social media aspect and the email and the constant communications. And, we used to live in bubbles. We used to only understand what was going on primarily in our towns and our cities, right? But now the world is completely available to us, right? We didn't really know what was going on in the Middle East 40 years ago. We didn't have that technology to get the information over to us with newspaper. And typically it was what happened in our local areas. But now we're so much more global, much more aware of what's going on in the world. And it weighs on everyone, right? Everyone is just so vested in making the world a better place. Excuse me. Global warming, the natural disasters happening everywhere. It's just, there's so much more pressure and stress, I think, on the human race than ever before. And it's very concerning. Are we going to have enough water for our grandkids? Are we going to be, having to live inside because of the ozone layer? I mean, there's so many issues that pop up. And I think that weighs on everybody in such a big way, on top of financial pressures, right? Just think about the cost of food, the different political environments we live in the United States today and around the world. It weighs on everyone, and that stress is building up, and hence our cortisol levels go higher and higher and higher. And I think because of the lack of sleep, it is exacerbating these symptoms for men and women around the world. And I'm not saying I am a solution for everyone and everything, but I can guarantee you HRT does not address cortisol. The only thing that addresses cortisol is being mindful and understanding the effect on the body and trying to have lifestyle habits that support it in combination with supplementation. And I believe that we are the best supplementation on the market with proven science and efficacy to support that mission. But at the end of the day, cortisol is so far removed from sleep. Historically, that's why I wrote the book. Stress Nation is trying to bridge that gap to help people understand that even though it's 2 or 3 derivatives removed from sleep, it is the cause and effect. It is the underlying reason why the human race is suffering right now. But yet we're all thinking, I got to lose weight, or I've got to do this. Well, no, right? And the last thing is people talk about exercise and nutrition. And absolutely, it's 100% big part of all of this. And then people always ask me, what's the best nutrition plan? What's the best exercise plan? And my response is the same. It's really straightforward. Farm to table, organic food is the best. Consume less calories than you burn and get your heart rate up. In terms of anything else, lift weights. It's the only thing that's going to improve the quality of your life for the longevity. Lift weights. Put yourself under load. Now, you don't have to lift massive weights, but you want to fight osteoporosis, you have to put your bones under load. You want to increase your muscle mass, most importantly, you have to lift weights. but don't forget to stretch and look after yourself. But it's that simple. There is no best nutrition plan. There's been the Atkins diet, the keto diet, the South Beach diet, the paleo diet. I mean, everyone wants to do a new diet because guess what? It's a business. It's got monetary value to the author, right? What's best is what works for you. And as you get older, you will have allergies and some things won't agree with you, and you may have an injury and you have to adapt. But it's that simple. But if there's one big piece of advice that the book focuses on, Rebalance focuses on, is control your cortisol, control your stress, and be maniacal for sleep. Clinically speaking, if you wake up once at night, it's a bad night's sleep. And so with sleep apnea, you can appreciate how severe it can get.
Yeah, for me, if I wake up twice a night, it's a good night's sleep. So really trying to work on that. And, I think a lot of us older gentlemen with our prostates and things like that, we think that we are waking up because our bladder's waking us up. And I know for myself, when I get up, I have to pee, but I'm not getting up because I have to pee. Otherwise, there would be this huge stream of urine coming out of me when I pee. My sleep is getting disrupted. Right. And it has been a challenge to try and get that all in order. And so much so that, as we talk about our pillars, and you've listened to some of our podcasts, we have our 6 pillars, that sleep is really starting to elevate to me to being being the most important pillar of good health. Because if we don't get good sleep, doesn't matter if our diets are zeroed in the way they should be. Doesn't matter if we're exercising, because we're not going to exercise as well because we're not recovering, right. And we're not going to have the energy to exercise to get enough stimulus for growth and adaptation. And, smoking, we have that as one of our pillars, but it's like, people aren't smoking as much lately. Yeah. And if you are, that's going to end up disrupting your sleep. That's going to have an impact. And, of course, social connections are important as well. No question. But that sleep is so critical. And just the more we interview people like yourself and people about brain health, it's like, sleep should be our number one concern as we're, trying to age well. And so what is cortisol's role? We've kind of alluded to this a little bit, but just to underscore, what is cortisol's role in regulating our body's circadian rhythm, and how does it reset it naturally?
How does it reset it naturally? Well, let me put it this way. We are designed to wake up when the sun rises, and we are designed to go to sleep when the sun goes. And the best thing you can do when you wake up in the morning is not reach for the phone, not check who's texted you or who's liked you, but to go outside and to get as much sunlight as you can and help elevate your cortisol levels. Now, when you go to sleep and you wake up in your last few cycles, you start to develop cortisol naturally so that your body can wake up, but it is based on that rhythm. The hardest thing you can possibly do is have a night shift or be a working emergency services professional or doctor, because you're fighting that natural rhythm. And even the doctors have begun to not require those long shifts because they appreciate how disruptive it is to your health and your well-being. But cortisol is designed to get you up, get you going, get you energized, get your mental clarity going in its normal levels, right? So I'm talking high in the morning, right? And so you want that sunshine, that exercise, everything to help get that cortisol up to where it needs to be so you're on your top of your game. But if you're not careful, you can go past the peak and get into that fight or flight state, and now you're in trouble. And we want to get you back down into that normal range, which is, again, high in the morning, low in the afternoon, and as low as possible before bed. That is the natural circadian rhythm, and our cortisol helps us in that cycle. But everything that happens in our day, everything that you have no control over, literally affects your cortisol, right? But if you're mindful about what you should be in and you feel yourself in that stress state, you're like, you know what, I need to calm down a little bit. And one of the best things you can do to bring cortisol down is either go for a walk outside, do some breathing, like some special breathing techniques. There's hundreds of them. Box breathing would be one that would be great, right? Just focus on your breath and bring your cortisol levels down. It's amazing how quickly that can happen. And then just control your life in a way that you feel like you're in control. If you ever feel like you're out of control, that's a good sign to stop and pause, because you want to keep that natural circadian rhythm going so that you can have a effective and enjoyable day and you can show up as your best self. And when cortisol takes over, we don't always show up as our best selves.
So what do you say to the person who says, well, I'm having trouble sleeping, so I'm just going to take melatonin. I'm just going to take a big dose of melatonin.
Well, does melatonin address your cortisol levels?
Not at all.
Not at all. Melatonin is something that your body will always make. You actually don't need any support with melatonin. We actually have in the Dream formulation a melatonin version and a melatonin-free version. Unlike testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone, if you take melatonin, your body will always make it. If you're a young guy in your 30s taking testosterone because you want to look jacked and get all, looking like the superstars, right? You stand a very big risk. And that risk is after 12 to 14 months, the data suggests that you'll have an 80% chance of never making testosterone naturally again, ever again, even if you come off of it. And so you're on TRT for the rest of your life. Some would argue, I don't care. That's fine. If you're in your 60s and 70s and you're beginning to go on TRT because you want to get more because your body simply isn't making any, that's a whole different equation. It makes total sense, right? Same for women. Melatonin is different. You can take melatonin and your body will always continue to make it. However, your tolerance levels become less and less, right? And so, greater and greater. So basically at the end of the day, you need to take more and more melatonin to get the same effect. And what does melatonin do? It doesn't put you to sleep. Everyone thinks it puts you to sleep and keeps you asleep. Melatonin prepares you for sleep. It puts you in that kind of, I'm turning off my brain a little bit. I'm beginning to get into that twilight zone and I can fall asleep. It doesn't keep you asleep. And in fact, I actually have a clinical study on that. I can prove that melatonin for the majority of supplements go into your body and it takes about an hour to an hour and a half before it kicks in. It hits a peak and then comes right out. And so your body metabolizes it. So it doesn't stay in. It goes in and comes out. When I did a study on ours, it goes in quicker and it stays at the higher level for a longer period of time. And yes, it comes out. It goes away. And so what happens is your body just becomes less and less responsive to the natural amounts that you make. So you augment it, you take some melatonin, you get a bigger dose, and it works better for you. And after a week or two, that doesn't work, so you take another, and you take another. And now you're taking 10 melatonin gummies, and you're messing up your body's natural circadian rhythm and your body's ability to put itself into a relaxed state to be able to go to sleep and fall asleep. So melatonin is a wonderful tool. It should be cycled, meaning on and off every 30 days or every few days, depending on how you use it. But it certainly shouldn't be abused. And I'll go out on a limb here on a soapbox. Any company that's selling you melatonin gummies for your kids should be shot, hung, and quartered. Because you're now suggesting that your child needs hormone replacement therapy, because that's exactly what you're doing by giving them melatonin, because melatonin is a hormone.
So my understanding of melatonin is that it really just tells our bodies it's time to go to sleep. And the only time really to take it would be if we're, when you're going back and forth between London and LA, you might need to take a little bit extra melatonin just to kind of trigger the pineal gland to put out some so that your body's saying, okay, it's time to go to sleep. But a very short-term kind of fix, if at all.
For me, I personally use the Dream melatonin free. And if I've had a particular stressful day and I'm a little bit more high-strung than I should be at 6, 7 o'clock in the afternoon, I'll take the Dream with melatonin because I feel like it'll give that extra kick to help get me to where I need to go so I can fall asleep and stay asleep. I don't use melatonin on a daily basis, but maybe a couple times a month I'll use it. Otherwise, I'm very, very conscious of my day, when to wind down and to turn off. And I think there's a big movement, or has been a good movement, that we have to work harder longer than anybody else. And Americans are known for that, right? We have unbelievable work hours in contrast to, say, Europeans. And I think working harder isn't working smarter. And so it's not who has the most hours wins. And that's the mentality that we have. And the analogy that I always compare it to is, would you drive your family and your loved ones on a long-distance trip with 4 hours sleep? No, you wouldn't. So why would you run your company? Your decision-making skills are equally as poor, whether you're driving a car or running a company or running your life. So learn to prioritize, be more efficient, and appreciate the fact that you need to treat your body kindly and not keep up with this crazy rat race that I get up at 4, I go to bed at midnight, I have 4 hours sleep, I read 16 books, it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense, in my opinion of one.
And what about those who will say, well, I've had a rough day. I'm just going to have a nice cocktail to help me unwind. What is that doing to their cortisol levels?
Well, forget what's doing like cortisol levels. Everyone thinks alcohol is a relaxant, but it is. It's a relaxant for the first hour, and then it becomes a stimulant when it converts to sugar. And now you're wired. It's why most people have a glass of wine with dinner. It's my treat. It's like that entitlement I was talking about, right? I've earned this, right? It's only one glass a night. Well, guess what? Did you wake up? Guess why you woke up? Because you gave your body a big zap of sugar. And so alcohol is, I'm not a saint, right? I had a glass of whiskey last night with my kids for Father's Day, right? I celebrate it, but I have one drink maybe once every 3 or 4 months. But I know what it's going to do to me. Did I wake up last night? Actually, I didn't. Why? Because I had it early on, like 4 o'clock in the afternoon when we had dinner with the family. And so it's understanding what the nutrient or food or liquid that you put in your body does, how your body is going to react to it, and what you can anticipate being the fallout from. And so having a consistent glass of wine is simply at 7, 8 o'clock at night is not the best idea. I drink the majority of my water content before 2 in the afternoon. I work out early in the morning deliberately to get my day going. It works for me, gets my cortisol levels up and gets me energized and sharp, ready to go. And I use the late afternoons and early evenings to unwind and enjoy my family, my life, whatever it might be, but deliberately trying to unwind to bring those cortisol levels down as fast as I can and get prepared for bed. Have a nice long hot bath, shower, whatever your routine is, meditate, get yourself into that space so that when you're ready for bed, you will fall asleep and you will stay asleep. And it's not easy because, again, this is in the way, and doom scrolling is horrific. I mean, the average American scrolls the entire length of the Eiffel Tower every day on their phone.
So you've been talking about how addicted we are to this input, and you just had your iPhone up there. What are some of the signs that someone's nervous system and cortisol levels are being hijacked by this overstimulation, even if they think they're managing stress? Somebody, I do box breathing regularly, I do yoga, I'm limiting my alcohol, but they're still overstimulated. How do we express to our listeners and our viewers that maybe they're not managing their stress as well as they should be?
Simple, sleep quality. It always goes back. Everyone says, should I test my testosterone? Should I test my cortisol? No. You can have anxiety about getting your blood drawn. That's going to raise it. Your cortisol is so sensitive. It goes up and down every moment. To me, save your money and just track your sleep. Simple as that. What was the quality of my sleep? How much REM, how much deep, how much light do I make? Definitely deep sleep is the most beneficial in my opinion, along with REM, and light is the least beneficial. Still, together, very important, but I prioritize and I look at my REM and my deep sleep. Those are the ones I really want to monitor and look at. You're looking for at least 60 to 90 minutes of deep sleep every night. And if you haven't, that's your goal. Simple as that. That is your goal. Consistently 60 to 90 minutes. And monitor how many times you wake up. So whether it's a sleep device that you wear, whether it's an Oura Ring, a Fitbit, a Whoop, or what have you, to me, monitoring your sleep is the way to function and be alert as to whether I'm a victim of high cortisol or not. And I would imagine that probably 99% of the population is. If you have to pick up your phone and check out that beat, you're on the spectrum at some point. It really is that simple. I think there was a game at one point, wasn't it, where everyone puts their phone in a restaurant on the table and they stack it up. And they're all beeping and buzzing throughout dinner, and whoever picks up their phone first has to pay the bill, type of thing, right? Because that's just an example of like, oh my God, I'm waiting for this call, or my kids need to contact me. I mean, everyone became helicopter parents, right? At what age do you give your kids a smartphone? Oh, but I need to communicate with little Johnny after soccer practice to make sure he's safe. And it's like, was that a thing for you and me? I grew up in the 70s. Is that no? It was get home before the sun goes down. Literally, that's all you need to do. Be safe. And so that kind of awareness of the world isn't a safe place anymore, and my kids are going to be taken, or something bad's going to happen to them, or there's bullying. It's driving everyone crazy.
So it sounds like the assumption should probably be that we are all overstimulated and we're all not getting enough sleep.
I would agree with that 100%. So with most of the doctors, I think, in the world.
How do you track your sleep?
I have an app that's on the bed. I have a Tempur-Pedic bed, and it has a sleep sensors on it. And every day I get a sleep score, and I often post my sleep scores on my social channels so you can see. I'm typically in the 90% range, 90% or above. And funny enough, when I take the melatonin, normally it's the higher ranges because it knocks me out because I don't abuse it. And so I use it when I know I really need it. Otherwise, I'm quite happy with my 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep that I get consistently. I typically wake up maybe once in the night, and that is not very often. Typically, I sleep through, but if I do, it's once. And I'm very careful, and it's simply because having my wife go through Cushing's and both of us being super, super sensitive to our sleep and our stress levels in order to make sure that she doesn't have a kind of a setback and get diagnosed again and have high levels. And so we definitely try and keep our lives calm from roughly 5 o'clock in the afternoon onwards. But we are both up at 4 a.m. We go to the gym. We're at the gym by 5. We work out. We're back. We live our lives. And we're in bed by 8:30 at the latest. Kind of everyone would say you're boring, but I would say that we're living life to the fullest.
Yeah, I think boring is fuller. I think we think that we have to cram more and more into our lives, and we become this population that is perpetually tired, foggy, wired but exhausted, and rather than caffeine in the morning and alcohol in the evening to try and unwind, what are a few practical first steps that we can take now to begin to restore that hormonal balance? And